And here we are. Kyle, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And you sacrificing your time to be on the podcast.
No, it's an honor. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Can you give the world a bit of an insight into like what you do and who you are and everything like that?
Well, my name's Kyle. I like making films. I'm a director of sorts. I like to write occasionally, and sometimes that turns into a film. Other than that, I work with children in an after-school care center. And yeah, at the moment, not a lot's happening because of COVID, but yeah, that's a bit of me.
Yeah, extremely modest, of course. But we're just kicking it off. Like, what are you grateful for to get us on like a positive perspective to start off with?
Oh, I'd have to say that definitely the people in my life, my position in life, yeah, I'm just very grateful for the stuff I have, the people I have, the support systems in place, and I count myself very lucky. Um, yeah,
Wicked,
sure.
wicked, wicked. I'm grateful to have you on here and just grateful to like to have met you through mutual friend Max. Shout out to
Mm,
Max. But
fuck
yeah,
yeah.
I remember the first time meeting you. I think we were on our way to I think we were on our way to location for a film we were both working on, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
heading to North Sydney somewhere. I think we were going up in your X Trail. Oh no, it was
Yeah.
Max's car. Yeah.
No, it was Max's car. Yeah, it was Max's car. And we were like, it's always funny like meeting someone who like because Max is just absolutely raving about you as director. And I'm like, I've got
Yeah.
this like fucking thing in my mind about okay, this guy's legit. I hope he doesn't know I'm a fraud. Like
No.
fucking
No, I think that was the same sort of feeling I had when we were in the car. I was like, God, I hope these guys don't think I'm actually serious about being a
yeah.
director.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, that was good. I liked that project a lot, Hustlers. That was a nice sort of introduction to how we both work and yeah, sort of what we're interested in film. And that was quite nice.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed working with you mainly because you were so adept at actually communicating with actors. Like you're definitely one of the best directors I've ever worked with in terms of communicating with the actors and really not just sympathizing with them in the moment, but really empathizing with them. And my question is like, what did you always plan to become a director, or was there original a different occupation you wanted to go into as a young one, or was it always directing?
Yeah, I think from a very early age, I always wanted to be like, Spider-Man or, some sort of superhero or,
Mm.
I loved playing around in the playground a lot. Like, I think we've discussed, in previous, like we just love make believe and like playing these characters and really committing to the characters. And yeah, I think from an early age, I think I wanted to be an actor and then did drama in high school and I started to really enjoy that. Um, but I think my love fell out of it when I had to do, well, not had to, but when I started doing screen stuff. I really liked the theatre. There wasn't enough opportunity for me to do it often. And I started to get into directing and whatnot. And at one point I just wanted to be a PT.
Really?
Funnily enough, I actually was like, you know what? I'll do acting on the side and I'll do it like PT is my main thing. I'll start a gym. And that obviously didn't happen for many reasons. Yeah. And then, yeah, so I think from an early age, I wanted to do something to do with performing arts. And I just loved it so much. But yeah, it never really ended up that way.
And was it in regards to your love for acting not transferring to the screen? Where do you think from stage to screen it really you fell out of love with it? Was it just the repetitiveness of telling the story, or
Hmm.
lack of opportunities, or
Well, actually, I think it transfers directly into what I love about directing, because there's a sense of control. I was speaking to an actress the other day. It's a theater actor. About we were talking about Zoom plays that people are doing these days, and the lack of connection we have with the character. And what I loved about the theater is that there is a sense of control. Like if you say a line a certain way, you've got the audience in your hand. If you do, your body language, everything, it's a live performance. People are with you, they feel connected, and it's quite kinetic. Where on screen, the control seemed to, there wasn't, for me, as to be the actor, it wasn't, I didn't feel that same enjoyment, because I didn't feel like there was a presence there wasn't that same kinetic energy. You get something from the director saying, yeah, that was great, that was good, but the feedback wasn't, it's what's unsaid that I really enjoyed. And so going into directing, that's what I love, is that feeling of control. I obviously have control issues, but like knowing that, certain, how you do a scene and whatnot, you can really connect with an audience on a deeper level. Yeah, I think, if that answers
Yeah,
the
I
question.
completely understand what you're saying, because I mean, one thing that's been pretty evident for me within this lockdown is my love for acting has sort of gone real up and down depending on external feedback, and there's not much external feedback you can get via acting by yourself in a room with no one else watching, and you're the only one watching it back, or maybe you're showing some of your friends or anything like that. But there's something about being on stage and being able to feel the energy of the audience and react to how they're feeling as well. Because if you say a certain line and you realize, okay, tonight they're feeling like this, I've said it like this, okay, so then I can adjust the way my character is sort of going through certain parts of the play. And it's almost like a form of tennis, really, whereas I think what you're talking about in the film sense is more just like, okay, how did that land? I don't fucking know. I have no control over that, right? The only control I have is like what I want from the other character.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's interesting. So you always wanted to be would you get back into theater?
I don't know. I'm potentially. I think if it was a small thing, and if it was, with a couple of friends, maybe. Like if it was a short run type thing, maybe I would. But and it wouldn't be a main. It wouldn't be a main ensemble. It would just be sort of a background character, because I'd aim to steal the scene. But no, I don't know. Maybe in the future, if something comes along, that would be awesome. But if not, I'm happy with what I've got at the moment.
At what point did you consciously like tell the world and yourself that, all right, I'm going to be a director, I'm going to follow this path? Yes, the after school kids thing is like a place for me to earn money at the moment while I'm chasing my dream. But at what point did you realize like this is what I want to do?
Well, it's funny because like I think in high school, as soon as like the plays and everything started to drop off in high school, I think, and got more into film. I did my major work and that was great. And I would say then, but thinking back on when I got into film school, there was this one short film that I'd made. It was in the first trimester or the first two trimesters, where I was like, yeah, I'll direct something. And it was in the same sort of quality as my major work from high school. It wasn't great. I thought it was passable, and I thought that was good. And then we watched it. We watched all the films together. These two other films that were much better than mine. I think it was one. And I remember just watching it and then watching mine with the audience, with the rest of my class there, and just thinking, far out, this is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And I just remember going home that day and just thinking, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I've got to do I've got to go all out. There's no, pussyfooting around. You can't just go, oh yeah, it's a passable little video. This is a little bit of fun. Like, no, if you're going to do it, you have to go all out and you have to take it so seriously. So I'd say the film I did after that, which is a kind of like a neo-Western about these two cowboys who play chess, which I haven't released. Actually, I really want to do that. That one I think was like sort of the tipping point into like, this is me, this is what I can deliver, and this is my style, and that was a really good one. I think that was one of the best from that trimester as well. Not to toot my own horn, but yeah, that was probably the time.
Yeah, wicked. And the so within that, because obviously there's within different projects that we do and future ones that we collaborate on and you've done by yourself, one thing that I've really been inspired in working with both you and Max is that thing in which you just talked about, in taking it to the 110 120% of like giving it everything and going to the most amount of detail. Because I mean, as an individual, I'm definitely one who's always looking for the shortcut and like, oh fuck, like how can I get there in a shorter amount of time. But one thing that I'm really sort of grateful with, and how I've met you and worked with you and Max, is both of you are just absolutely fucking like, if you're not like putting in as much as we are, then what the fuck you doing, bro? Like
yeah, it's a bit like that.
yeah obviously not with the aggression, because you two are just top fucking blokes, but there's that sort of undertone of like, no, like we are taking this so seriously because we actually have something to say. And in sort of in having something to say, one of my favorite films of yours that I've seen is probably my favorite film of yours that I've seen is Emphysapien.
Thanks, man.
Really, 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 really cool. And where can people watch that on your Vimeo?
Yeah, so I need to make it a bit more public, but yeah, it's on Vimeo.
I'll link it in the description if you can send it
please
after.
do.
I'll link in the description for those who are interested. But it's just such a beautiful film with no dialogue at all. And the shots are just incredible, and it has a really, really strong comment on human nature and what we're doing to the earth. And I was just wondering, what sort of stories as a director do you want to tell?
I think I'd say stories that really make you think twice about the subject matter and allow the audience to look deeper in either the story or within themselves. I think that's the beauty of film, is that art in general, is that if it's good, it makes you think twice about your life, makes you think twice about the subject matter and how it relates and whatnot. That's the stories I really want to tell at the moment. Yeah.
Interesting. And do you have any like examples of films that have done that for you?
Yeah, I think the first one that comes to mind is Enemy, Ghost in the Shell. There's a bunch. I think any good movie will allow you to think deeper. Even Tarantino's, without getting into too specific, but yeah, I think Enemy is the most recent one I'd seen where it made me really think about, for me anyways, I don't want to put my opinion on it because it's a very there's quite esoteric qualities of the film, so I don't really want to put my opinion on it, but I'd say for me it made me think deeper about my masculinity and my relationship and my relationship with some of the female roles in my life, if that's the right way of saying it. But yeah, that one was a really, really nice sort of reality check. And a lot of people, if they've seen it, may not think that, but for me it was kind of like, whoa, this is a really impactful film. Ghost in the Shell's another one, more to do with like humanity and, you know, what it means to be human. A similar one could be like Blade Runner. That's a really good one. But yeah.
Right, interesting. And like going into those sort of esoteric ideas in you know, challenging challenging beliefs and, you know, opinions within human nature in terms of these films having their impact upon you. If you could give us like one little hint in terms of ideas that maybe have changed your outlook on human life and nature and perhaps your own human nature. What do you think in Enemy has been like and if it's too personal, feel free to go next fucking question, mate. But what do you think in Enemy or, you know, Ghost in the Shell has really actually changed your perspective on life?
I think you know what, I think it's helped me open my my view. Oh, sorry, I'll say that better. It's helped me with my perspective on life. It used to be I feel like when you're young, it's a very narrow path. I think it's a very narrow sort of outlook on life. It's like, yeah, this is one thing. This is what I think. Fuck that person for not thinking the same way. And, you know, that person's not quite good enough to be in it. But I think watching these films, I mean, these are, Enemy's only a recent one that I watched last year, and Ghost in the Shell I've watched for ages. But yeah, they've sort of helped me open my mind a bit to life, I guess. And just knowing that there's not a solid answer for everything. There's not a concrete answer to life, and that you kind of have to take it day by day and not take it as narrow. You don't have to take that narrow corridor that you do when you're young. You know, your parents always tell you not to close any doors, always leave them open. And I think, if anything, these films have just helped me just embrace that a bit more.
Yeah, no, I completely get what you're talking about within, you know, within obviously respect to our life. We had a conversation about this yesterday, I think, during our meeting, but there's definitely a similar thing that that has helped me within other films, in a similar regard to yours, is especially when we're younger, we see things like black, white, like this is good, this is bad, da da da, and like they think that, so they're a fucking idiot, and like this is the way to go. But in reality, I think a lot of these films and what I think the greatest films inspire, and you know what you have definitely inspired me within the way you direct and Emphysapien, is that it's not all black and white, in the sense that, okay, if someone does something bad, that doesn't mean they're necessarily a bad person, right? And if someone does something good all the time, doesn't necessarily mean they're a good person. It's more, I mean, I'm trying to sound smarter than I am here, but and help me out if you can, if you have any ideas. But for me, I think it's really just allowed me to, you know, take on the things that my parents have taught me, and like, okay, they've said this is good and this is bad, right?
Yeah.
But then in order to achieve the highest level of success, sometimes the bad things that your parents told you not to do are good in small doses, and those good things that your parents told you to do are bad in very high doses.
Well,
and
it's like, it's just learning to walk, you know. It's like they can tell you, they can give you a guide, a very rough guide based on their life experiences and whatnot, but you have to, you can't take everything they say as gospel at the end of the day, because we're only human and we make mistakes. And you know, I said this to it's a HSC student I was talking to the other day about this, one of the stimuli they had for their paper, and we you know, long story short, we got into this mad discussion about human nature and the greater system in play, and how that greater system is a very narrow lane, and human nature is like this wavelength that dips in and out of it, going along the same path though. And I think we talked about this yesterday, that there's a fine line, there's a very fine balance that you have to walk along, so that you have to discover. And yeah, I think, yeah, that guide is sort of your parents, and then that wavelength is you. It works on many different levels, you know, in society, in your house, in your family, with your relationships with other people. Yeah. So if anything, I think those films have just sort of opened up the view on, would just put everything in perspective for me. Like, it has allowed me to see that and go, okay, well, now that I know that's what that is, I feel a lot more comfortable in my own skin. I feel a lot more comfortable with other people, because they're just people. No one's ever surface level. There's always something deeper to them. And that's what I mean by learning how to walk. You know what, just on another tangent, I was watching something from Jordan Peterson. It was I think it was the video after that got him famous. So there was a video that created a lot of controversy with his career, without getting too much into it or putting my viewpoint on it. And there was a following video where a group of people stormed into his lecture and just disrupted him, and he didn't move. He didn't leave. He didn't do anything. Eventually, he got out of there with a group of students who still wanted to learn. And there's one thing he said, which I thought was really interesting. He said, you have to go out into the world, and you need to learn how to speak. So you speak, right? You need to learn how to write. So you write. You need to educate yourself. And you can't, and I'm paraphrasing terribly here, but you can't just take life in black and white, like we were discussing. And yeah, that one really stuck with me. I just thought, fuck, that's so smart. I wish I thought of something like that, but no.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. And, you know, myself being a big fan of Jordan Peterson as well, that was one of I think a similar quote I think I heard later after the video you're talking about is like, you know, what makes you the most what's the most beneficial skill as a human being that you can have, right? And the most beneficial skill as a human being that you can have, in my eyes and his eyes, is to communicate effectively, right? So if you can learn how to write effectively and well and tell the world what you want, then you are so much better off than the people who can't. Right. Because the people who can't tell, you know, the world what they want because they're too illiterate, or, you know, just can't express themselves properly. Like, if you can't express yourself properly, how do you know what you're thinking? How do you know what you're feeling? You're like bumping around into things, not knowing sort of what's going on inside your head or what's going on in the world around you. And you can't sort of make sense of it all. And coming from me, who, you know, I don't have a tertiary education outside of high school. I heard that and I'm like, okay, fuck. And then I just sort of started writing every day and or every second day, and reading just really complex books, even if I didn't fucking understand it at all. And it's helped a lot. And, you know, that's one of the main reasons why I started this podcast, is so I could just have consistent conversations with different people who I find inspiring, and also, you know, highly intellectual, that I can, you know, maybe train myself to sound, you know, smarter and tell the world what I want and how to get it, and learn from you.
Yeah, well, that's it. And I'm also learning from you. It's all about, it's learning. Yeah, it's learning to talk. It's learning to, it's building these skills, and not just building them, but like keeping them consistent. I mean, the one thing I found from lockdown is it's so easy to just recede into like a shell. Especially with how I've been I feel like before lockdown, and when I was at uni and I was going out a little bit more, that I was a lot more outgoing. And since lockdown, and since being, you know, isolated like everyone else. You know, it's made me, I think, a lot more introverted and not really caring about how much I want to say certain things or whatnot, and not having that opinion,
Mm.
which has also benefited me, I think. But yeah, I think it's good to just talk, just to word vomit, just to vomit a bunch of words and just see
Yeah.
what sticks. And if it makes sense, it makes sense. And if you sound a bit ridiculous, then, oh, well, you know not to say that again, or maybe for a bit of fun you do. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree with what you're talking about, and definitely in the, you know, the aspects you talked about in lockdown and becoming more introverted. I definitely feel that as well. Like, you know, one of the main things that I'm like, you know, obviously where the end of lockdown is looming, and one of the things I'm sort of most concerned about is like, fuck, everyone's going to want to hang out with me again. And like, I'm so used to like being by myself and just doing my own thing, and like, you know, having my own schedule and yeah, everything like that. But so you're talking about like skills. We're talking about skills that we learn, how to speak and how to write and everything like that. And obviously you've studied at SAE and, you know, done a lot of research and study yourself. But what do you think in your eyes is the most underappreciated skill to foster as a director?
Well, I mean, I think just the ability to communicate. I think that's at the end of the day, I think that's just what you need to do. I remember hearing something about Tarantino. He asked for some directing advice from a friend. I can't remember who it was, but all he said to Tarantino, and kind of paraphrasing, was just tell them what you want and they'll do it. And you know, it's as simple as that. You just tell them what you want and you can do it. But you know, for me, I mean, you do need to just tell people what you want.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing. I've been on a set just as like a gaffer, or, sorry, just to hold a, you know, a bit of light board or whatever, and hearing the director struggling to communicate effectively, you know, of what they want from the actor, and then the actor just being like, well, I wouldn't do, like, the character wouldn't do that, and then there's that awkward like okay. And I guess at the end of the day, it's multitasking, the ability to communicate effectively as well, and just, I'm not too sure this is a skill, but I think just having a really strong vision. If you're going to direct or if you're going to write, you need to, like what we said before, you need to give 120% to everything. You know, you can't half-ass anything. So communication is the biggest. I think for me, I found that it's the biggest underappreciated skill, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have to concur with that in terms of, you know, the amount of directors that I've worked with, and you know, I've been in that situation as well. Like, okay, so your character's gonna do this. I'm like, the fuck it, they wouldn't do that. Like,
Yeah.
and then they're like,
Yeah.
um,
Just a challenging thing, you know. It's just like,
yeah,
but that's what it is. Like, you want that kind of back and forth with an actor or with another creative, just in general. You want that feedback, because you just say, you don't want to give them line readings. You don't want to just give them an action for no reason. And if it is going to be on surface level, no reason, you need to like effectively communicate that there's something greater to what I want here. We're not going to debate over this. This is just how it's going to be. And you'll see why when it's done.
yeah,
I found a lot of struggle in that when it came to Emphysapien, for sure. The whole process of that film was very, wasn't great, but we ended up with something really amazing. I think maybe some of the other crew may not, but who knows? And I think that just came down to my ability to communicate what I wanted. And I don't think anyone really understood what I was going for until we screened it. And then them thinking, oh, okay, right, that's right. just say that then. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I suppose I should have, but
Yeah.
But yeah, you live and you learn, I suppose.
That's it. And it's an interesting thing. I talks with we were talking on that last podcast with the director Peter and Michael, and Michael the actor. And I asked Peter what was the most, how did you know you wanted to work with Michael? And he was like, well, I was in my lounge room. We were going through, this film that I'd written, and there was a whole bunch of actors in my lounge room, and my parents were in the kitchen, whatever. And we're going through the script, and all the other actors going, yeah, this is great, I love this is da da da. And then Michael stands up and goes, I don't fucking get this. What the fuck is this? Like, this doesn't make sense. Like da da da. And he was like, that's who I need, because I think a lot of relationships, and where it's very easy for actors or directors to be too, I especially think at times you, me, and Max are way too nice to each other, and that fact is you need that little bit of fucking conflict, like, hey, fuck you, bro, like this is what it's supposed to be, and you're like, well, I think this is what it's supposed to be, and then throwing shit at each other, you create that, what it is.
Well, I mean, it just reminds me of I think it's called, I can't remember what the documentary is called, but it's behind the scenes of Apocalypse Now. And I remember seeing, it was Francis Ford Coppola and Dennis Hopper. Pretty sure it's Dennis Hopper. And I'm pretty sure Dennis Hopper was full. Maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but I believe that he was in full method into the character. I don't know if you've seen Apocalypse Now, but he's the guy with all the cameras.
Yeah.
And he's very free, I don't know. He's a very open guy. And the conflicts on set was just so, like, you watch it and you just think, you just can't help but laugh, and you just think, fuck, that looks tense. And he's his character, and Francis Ford Coppola's just like, just do what I say. Don't question, like, just but yeah, I mean, if you look at that film, that's just a good example of what those kind of conflicts, those creative conflicts can create.
No, I definitely get you. And it's no secret to me that you love Christopher Nolan. What particular attribute as a director or skill as a director do you think makes him stand out compared to others?
I wish I knew him personally.
Yeah.
But I think based on what I've seen, especially from his earlier works to now, again, it just comes down to communication and having that really strong vision for something and just sticking by it and being well researched in it, and knowing, like, no, this is going to work regardless. He's playing with a lot of complex themes. Oh no, maybe not themes. I think they're very relatable themes, but I think complex story elements, time travel and layers of dreams. And I mean, his first film, Following, fuck, that was amazing. That's such a good film. Going on off my own tangent here. I think it's overall, it's just that ability to communicate effectively, and being well researched in the subject matter, and on top of that, just having a good understanding of the filmmaking process. And yeah, he's got expectation and reality all there. If that makes sense. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about his film now, and I'm just
that's so good. That's okay. I want to dive into it, because I'm very guilty of you recommending it to me like 3 or 4 times and still not having seen it. But what I understand, for those who don't know, Following's just his first feature film, correct? About a certain man just following strangers, correct?
So that's his character. The main character's thing is just he's a writer, and so he his interest is into following others and just sort of, I interpret it as sparking, his writing and his creative process. But I think within that, he gets caught up in this kind of this bit of a criminal underbelly. And yeah, Nolan does it in such a way that it's like, it's not too much of a stretch from the truth. Like, it's actually kind of, it's cool. He hides like the criminals and whatnot. Yeah, anyways, it's a good film. It's a good film.
So I'll link that below for everyone as well, so I can go watch it. But following Christopher Nolan's strengths, he's obviously very good at, choosing the right actors for his films, and it's obviously a big decision for any filmmaker and any director. And what in your process, what do you think is most indicative of an actor who's capable of giving a high quality performance, or just what you want within the character?
Oh, okay. Well, I suppose just like it's the ability to communicate for directors, I suppose it's just someone who's really willing to listen, because I think that's one thing I've found when casting. It's like, sometimes they're not getting it, but it's not even that. It's just they're not listening, I think, at times, and they're not communicating what they're thinking. And you can feel that when you're casting. I think you get a good sense of the person. And I found at the end of the day, it's just someone who's willing to listen and be open about the concepts you want to tackle and the character that's in the story. I remember working with this actor once. I will not name names, but who just he read the script, came in for the reading. We thought at the time it was great. And then on set, it was great energy. Everything was good, and the film ended up pretty good. But I just remember being on set, and it was just giving a bit of feedback, and then them just going, well, they're not even saying no, but we'd start to waste time on takes. It would just be like the same thing over and over, and like, okay, so they're not listening to me, and I don't know if I'm communicating effectively, and it's, you kind of just call it a day, because you don't want to waste anyone else's time. And that does have such an effect on the film. Like, it's night and day, someone who is willing to listen and work at the character, and then someone who isn't, and then you get the film and you go, okay, well, that's a cool film. But if that person just maybe have listened a bit better, we could have it could have elevated the story to such a different level, and had a better impact on the audience. But I think it is what it is. And if I suppose I've only worked in short films, so I suppose if it was a feature or something, I would constantly push until it's 100%. But yeah, I think overall it's just the ability to listen and collaborate. That's the one thing I think everyone thinks is just, it's a easy thing to do, but we've all got an ego. We all have our preconceived notions on what things should be, and it comes down to that narrow corridor we were talking about, and understanding that it's not black and white, and that even if you came in and you were casted as this, that ability to just throw it out the window and go, let's just start again. I want to work at this and I want to get this right. That's important to me. And you can sense that in a person, unless they're a phenomenal actor and just tricks you, and you go, oh fuck, okay. I've been duped.
No, I get you. And there's a really interesting point you raised in managing different egos and things like that. And at times it's something I'm, very good at, and other times I struggle a lot. But do you have any best practices for, when you're on set and managing your ego? Is there any things you do preparation wise or, mentally to really just manage your ego better?
Oh, I think it's more to do. I think what I do is just make sure I'm well researched on what I want to do, and like Peterson, you have to learn, and you have to you have to prepare yourself for that stuff. Like you have to. Let me reverse here.
Yeah.
What do I do for manage ego? Yeah, I remind myself that there's something greater at stake here, something that everyone's going to benefit from, and that my way or the highway is not the best approach to creating art. And so, yeah, you just remind yourself of that before I go on set or whatever. And it's yeah.
But I think,
open.
but I think in, being a director as well, you can also, fall into the trap of taking on too many opinions, right? So there's like,
Yes.
and just like we were talking about before, it's not like, you got to be open, but it's like, it's not, you got to be completely like, this is mine. There's like definitely a middle line.
Yeah.
How do you feel like is it just your ability to research well and be prepared, to, the utmost degree in knowing that you're making the right decision when, someone's challenging you and you're saying, no, this is the way we're going to fucking do it. And this is why, or I don't need to explain why.
Yeah, I suppose it's just and I had an answer in my head. I've lost it. But yeah, bit of dead air here. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Could you rephrase the question?
I will rephrase the question. When do you know is the right time to step in as a director and assert yourself?
Well, I mean, it's very it's just instinct. You just know when something's not meeting the vision that we've all discussed, beforehand. Like we don't just say, okay, here's the character, go off and do the thing. No, we talk about what are we trying to say in the story? What is this guy's, or what is this person's motivation? And how does that link in all together? And on set, it's nice to have suggestions. It's nice to take on those opinions and like, oh, okay, so they're thinking this about the story. Okay, well, that's wrong because we talked about it before and we have a good idea of what is going to work. And yeah, I suppose you just know, if it's right and if it's wrong. Like some suggestions you just know, it's a gut instinct. And yeah, I suppose that's the best thing I can say, really. It's just that on the day, you will know. If you love what you're doing and you have such a strong vision for it and everyone's on the same page, or they're supposed to be, then you'll know. If things pop up and you go, okay, that was better. That is what we were trying to talk about before. And then that elevates that. But maybe more often than not, there are other suggestions where you go, okay, we can try that, but let's try and get back on track, and you don't, that one's a bit of up in the air, a bit of free falling until you get into the editing room. You go, oh, actually, okay, I was wrong.
Yeah.
The ability to admit that you're wrong is also a very underappreciated skill. Yeah.
Wicked. And top 5 actors of all time, go.
Okay. They're all great. But Alain Delon, He's a French actor.
Oh, Alain Delon. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
He's fantastic. I watched the Red Circle the other day.
Oh yeah,
So great,
so
so
good,
great.
eh?
He was fantastic.
He's amazing. You should watch Purple Noon.
Purple
Uh,
Noon. All right, let me write
that's
that
a
down.
that. So if you've seen The Talented Mr. Ripley, the Matt Damon film.
No.
Oh, okay, that's a good one too. But I think it's based off Purple Noon, which is based off the Ripley books.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good one. If you want to see him stretch his acting chops, I think
Yeah.
it's a good one. I'm sure there's others
Okay.
as well. Next one, Frances McDormand. She is a powerhouse. I mean, she has such a presence in a film, and she has a character down to a T, I think, and it's so amazing. It's an experience to watch. It's almost how I feel watching theater. You know, it's just there's
Yeah.
such that there's this gravity when she walks onto the, eat Fargo, whatever. Like she's just, yeah, she's amazing. Obviously, Robert De Niro, I think.
Bobby.
Bob De Niro. I'm sure everyone understands why. He's a great.
No need. No need to explain.
He's just an amazing powerhouse. Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah.
For sure. How many is that? How many am I?
That's 4. That's 4. I've got 4 here.
Okay. Oh God, I don't. Top 5. Damn. God, I don't know. I don't want to say. Sam Neill, I think.
Sam Neill, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Any specific films that you really love that he's been in?
Yeah, I love Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah.
What's that Waititi film?
Hunt for the Wilder People.
That's it. Yes, I love
So
it.
great.
He was amazing in that. Yeah, Sam Neill's amazing actor. Yeah, Jurassic Park 3. I think I saw the third Jurassic Park before the Spielberg's first one. I don't know if he did the second one, but I just remember thinking, wow, I really believe this guy's like is it a paleontologist? Is that what it is? Yeah, I really believed it. I was like, wow. I was also a kid, but
yeah,
it stuck. The performance stuck with me, and so yeah, top, definitely top.
Fair enough. All right, that's a great list, sir. And directors following that, top 5.
You. I think. Oh, you know what? Louis Malle, French director. Following that, Eric Romer, Paul Thomas Anderson, Martin Scorsese, and I think if anything, I'll base it off what's had more of an effect on my work today and what's inspired me. I think Andrei Tarkovsky. I would have said Kubrick, but yeah, again, it's I think it's what's inspiring me now,
Yeah. Wicked. And following obviously, these fantastic directors that you've named, what skill or skills do you think first time directors or new directors pay way too much attention to?
I think it depends on the person. Really depends on who's directing. I think for me, I paid too much attention to the technical side of things, getting the shots, and it became very style over substance. And I think that's what I see in a lot of short films that are coming out today. maybe some student ones, mostly student ones, is sometimes it's too much exposition, or yeah, it's just a vast, endless. It's just, yeah. It really depends on the person. But yeah, yeah. Sort of
Yeah.
jumbled that one up. Sorry.
That's all good. That's all good. That's all good. And like in your eyes, obviously we've both learned a lot from films, and they are changing the world, and have been for the past, however long they've been around. But from a storytelling perspective, what do you think is more impactful? I mean, the main two types of stories you can go back in terms of plays, as in, Shakespearean or otherwise, or, going all the way back to, Greek mythology, is either tragedy or comedy. Which do you think is more powerful for change?
For change?
Yeah.
Oh, I think they both are just as impactful as each other, in terms of change. I think we all need to experience that loss and that heaviness of tragedy, and to inspire like some form of hope, and going forward. I mean, and then comedy, I think they both work for change. That's a good question.
Or maybe rephrasing it, like maybe just impacts upon humans.
Oh, you know what? I think they both have a very strong impact, but I'll bring it to what I've been looking at in most recent projects and whatnot. And I'd say comedy. I think I like irony in my stories.
Yeah.
I think it makes it more relatable. But it does depend. I mean, Emphysapien, I think that was a tragedy.
Yeah.
It depends on the subject matter, like the story you're trying to tell. There's a lot of comical aspects to Marriage Story, but there's also a lot of heavy tragedy in that as well. I think they work two in the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think my favorite form of storytelling in films is definitely the dramedy, like bringing them both together.
Yeah. There's a 100%. Good one actually.
Yeah.
This Is Where I Leave You. That's a great one. It's got Jason, not Statham, Bateman.
Yeah. I think I've seen that, and it's got Adam Driver as like the fuck up son.
Yeah. He's doing his psychologist or whatever it is.
He's yeah.
That's a great. I think that's a great example of like tragedy and comedy. There's a heavy loss in the family, and that looms over all the individual characters. But then there's also that comical, the funny dynamic of the characters interacting with each other, because they're all siblings. They know each other so well. They can just rip on each other, and it's quite funny because you go, oh well, that's like me and my sister, or that's kind of like how I see my family. And those are the things that will make more of an impact. I think anything that you can relate to will have a heavy impact onto the audience. And so I think, like you said, the dramedy is probably a really good one.
Yeah. And in like, you're talking about Jordan Peterson earlier. I've done a lot of, obviously a lot of listening to a lot of his lectures. And one thing that really stuck with me was his actual lectures on the Bible, and the impacts of, those lectures, the Bible, obviously, upon the world. And previously as a kid, I was like, oh, fuck the Bible, like, it's just making me read this book, like it's so I can be good. It's pretty stupid. But actually looking at it, and he forced me to sort of look at it for what it really is. And it's
Mm.
basically like a formation of different stories with like deep core lessons about humanity,
Yeah.
and all different types of things that have been written by different authors for thousands of years.
Mm.
And somehow it still has a narrative structure. Like, it's not
Yeah.
just like, this is what you should do and this is why. It's like, it's a story. And my question for you, right, is that why do you think, and obviously, more of an open-ended question, if you don't, I don't expect you know the whole answer, but maybe we can discover it in our word vomit. But why do you think humans can really connect with a narrative structure more than just, nonfiction?
I think it goes back to that, like a sense of belonging, sense of community,
Hmm.
um, and participation. I think at one point in the narrative, you can relate to the subject matter, and that's kind of exciting because like you can see yourself in that story.
Hmm.
It's funny you bring up the Bible. I remember hearing someone, I can't remember who said it, but I remember hearing this thing where they say the Bible's a massive self-help book.
Yeah.
Um, and you can see yourself in these stories, and that's the idea, right? Is that you want to better your life. And well, yeah, I'm mucking this one up, but yeah, I guess it's just that sense of belonging in
Hmm.
narrative and where you fit in the greater sense of the world. And I think the Bible is, thousands of years. It's the history of, the world, sort of,
Hmm.
in a very loose sort of sense. And so you kind of just want to see where you fit in there, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. No, I completely get um, what you're what you're saying. It's it's an interesting thing, because I was listening to, a bit of a lecture on Adam and Eve, and like how the garden, they're in the Garden of Eden. Obviously we all know the story of, Eve tempting Adam, and everyone's sort of, talking about how the sin was, eating the apple. But
Mm,
when God came down and actually asked Adam, like, oh, what happened, like, what did
mm,
you do, he blamed it on Eve and blamed it on the woman. And
mm,
it was sort of, Jordan was sort of, Dr. Peters was sort of arguing that that was the first sin in, like, man becoming conscious of his own like demoralization, because previously, I think, before the apple, there's maybe a metaphor of becoming self-conscious and aware, because all the other animals within, our whole world are not really self-conscious or aware. But
mm,
because we're self-conscious and aware, we're able to see into the future, and we're
mm,
able to see that bad shit can happen constantly,
mm,
right? And that
yeah,
terrifies the fuck out of us. So we become vulnerable, and
mm,
that's why, for the first time, they realized that they were naked and they were scared, and that long and bad, hiding behind bushes
yeah, yeah.
from God, because we realized the just the absolute finite uh finite nature of the world and our existence within it. Whereas
Mm,
animals, just birds going around like, I want food, I get food. There's no like real, like, what's actually more.
yeah.
um
There's no
and
existential crisis they have.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But now, for the first time in the human history, because of the internet, and obviously, everyone having much larger and wider access to it,
Mm,
we have infinite leverage, and the spoken word is more powerful than the written one. As previously, it's much easier, thanks to, Gutenberg's printing press. We could, write down things, send them out all over the world. But now we can send podcasts like this out instantaneously to
mm.
wherever we want to go, or films or YouTube videos and everything like that. Um, do you think that a maybe Bible, that like the stories that we tell now have almost a biblical impact upon the future of humans? Yeah, on the future of humans. Very poorly worded question, I
No,
know,
no, no.
but
I
I'm trying
know,
to
I
figure
get
it
what you
out.
mean. I have an impact. I hope so. I really hope so.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I suppose I really hope so. That's all I can say to that. It's like, you hope it has as much of an effect as the Bible. Will it last as long as the Bible? I'm not sure. Those have been around for thousands of years, whereas film and this new form of like podcasting and whatnot, it's only been like radio's only been around for like hundreds of years. Sorry, dog's been barking. So I guess I hope so. I mean, the one thing I thought about just then was the film The Book of Eli, where he carries around the Bible the whole time, and it's the only copy of the Bible, and that's all that survived in I think it's a nuclear holocaust or whatever it was. I think no, the sun was coming down. Or anyway, so I guess maybe not because of that film, but I mean, look, I really hope so. That's all I can say is I really hope so.
Fair enough. We've got a fight going on in the background.
We do. I'm so sorry.
No, it's sweet. That's sweet.
I was going to say, are you able to edit this?
Yeah. I mean, for the listeners, they just enjoy hearing your voice, so it's not too bad. But I can definitely edit that part. Do you have any favorite like one-liners?
Yeah, Aunt Carol's on fire. It's a good one.
Aunt Carol, where's that from?
Step Brothers.
Aunt Carol's on fire.
When he's sleepwalking and he's, Aunt Carol's on fire.
Fuck. Fair enough. And what's the best piece of advice someone has ever given you?
Something that's stuck with me since high school was my drama teacher. She said, if something makes you go, then don't do it. And that's stuck with me throughout everything. And then it trickles down to like, having a strong vision and, what you were talking about before, where as a director, where do you feel like it's right to come in and like, how do you facilitate the multiple opinions you get on set? And it's that gut feeling. It's just trust your gut at the end of the day because it's right. That was probably the best advice.
And what 3 films are mandatory viewing for all human beings? If you could compile 3 films into a Bible, put them in, the center of the earth, and human races of, thousands of years in the future have to watch because everything's gone, what would they be?
I think if we're talking about the human race, and I'd say the first 2 that come to mind is Ghost in the Shell, the original one, and Princess Mononoke, mainly to do with the environment and respecting the environment. And then, of course, Ghost in the Shell is what it means to be human. I don't know where we're going to be in 1,000 years if we'll be flying cars or whatever. But it's important to know that, there is a system in place for a reason, but at the same time, your natural instincts are important. And the third one, the third one. Just, I don't know. Third one, what's a great... I've got one in my head. I can't remember what it's called. Well, you know what? Just for a bit of fun, Heat by Michael Mann.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Just for a bit of fun. Why not? We can be serious and then like, okay, that's a really good film.
Yeah. The Princess, what was the pronunciation? Mononoke? The last?
Mononoke, yeah.
Mononoke.
It's a Studio Ghibli film by Hayao Miyazaki. Really great film. That's had a massive impact on me. I'd say a lot of Japanese animated films have had a lot of impact on my style of storytelling or how I choose subject matter or especially in the most recent film, Tommy's Shoes.
Mm.
Yeah, I won't say what, but yeah.
Wicked. And one thing that's obviously really prevalent for me within your work is the real love and affinity you have for, you know, protecting the environment. And it's not something we've really talked about outside of, you know, our normal conversations of, you know, what's the best movie to watch and everything like that. So where do you think that stems from in your love for the environment and protecting it?
Where does it stem from? I think childhood. I'd say childhood. I've always, and Tommy's Shoes is actually a really good look into my psyche, I suppose, and Max's as well. But I think as a kid, I've always loved or always observed the environment around me, and that has been such a important aspect of the films I've watched and whatnot. I mean, yeah, it just, at the end of the day, we're animals, right?
Mm.
And being out in the environment or just makes you feel at home in a weird way. I suppose not really a weird way, but, you know, yeah, it makes you feel at home. And I think it's important that I touch on it in some way in the film. It'll be in a small way. I don't take it as like a massive, like, you know, soap, what's it called? Milk carton stance on, like, yeah, no, not milk carton, milk crate, milk crate stance on like we should protect it and whatnot. But like, just to acknowledge it and to know it's there and that we work with it or we don't. And if we don't, then maybe some bad things will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just give me 1 second. I'm my computer's about to lose charge.
That's all good, dude. That's all good.
Thanks.
Chuck it on charge.
Thank you. But yeah.
Interesting. And yeah, because I think every film that I've seen you either involved with or made has definitely had heavy natural backgrounds in terms of, you know, in terms of nature being you know, a real element and forefront, and even, you know, a character in some of the films that you've really delved into. But now, thanks to the way the internet has made everything really instantaneous and killed the DVD sales.
Yeah.
The way movies are being made is going through like a restructuring period, because no longer is like the mid-budget drama a viable investment for studio executives or just, you know, random investors who do want to make those. So with streaming services putting more money into like bingeable shows rather than those, you know, mid-budget feature films, what format do you think will find the most profitable stories in the future? Do you think it's in those like long form streaming services, or do you think it could come back to films or maybe something else?
I truly believe it'll come back to films and cinema, because I mean, I hope we don't stick to streaming services for live. I mean, it's great. It really is great to have, you know, content this quick and, you know, TV shows just on the click of a button, you know, but I think, I mean, there's a reason Denis Villeneuve and Chris Nolan, you know, want to jump ship from Warner Brothers, because they want to take their films to streaming and not, there's an experience you have in the cinema with the community. It's like going to a football game. Like you go to it for the game. You want to support your team, but at the same time, you're there with your, like, it's like you're participating in it. And yeah, you can have some sort of effect, like, you know, on a laptop or whatnot. Tarantino says it's the best. I think there was a podcast with him and Edgar Wright, and he said, if you didn't go watch Joker in the cinema, you didn't watch the film. You know, he says if you watched it on your laptop, it's like getting a hand job. And I think that's so true. It's like if you're paying for something, a streaming service, whatever, you want the full effect of what they're trying to put out. You want that impact on you, right? That's what you're paying for. You're paying for the experience. And I hope that it returns to the cinema. I know COVID's proven otherwise, but I think cinema will prevail. I think it will come back. Oh, that's my hope anyways. What do I see? We'll have the most profitable stories. Unfortunately, it might be streaming services. It might be the short form TV shows that go for 13 hours a season, you know, which is a shame. Yeah, we didn't get to this point for no reason. Like, we put in hard work, and I mean, you talked about Shakespeare before, the theatre. You don't go watch the theatre on a laptop. And I think
that's true.
Before this discussion I had with this colleague about Zoom plays, is that the effect is not there. You don't have that element of control. And yes, you can sort of have it in your isolation, good for you, but it's just not the same.
I've got offered to do a few, and I was just like, no, just a straight up no. And I think it's, you know, really great for those, you know, people who really want that interconnection. And, you know, obviously for a lot of other people, it's, you know, really helped them during the lockdown. But I have to concur with you in that respect, because I just don't feel, it doesn't, no part of it feels real to me. You know, there's not one part.
Even this now, you know, like, we're on Zoom and I can see your face.
Yeah.
And I've been saying this, I've been having a lot of Zoom meetings since lockdown and whatnot. And I always come off with a weird, like, when I say it, but like, it just feels like this isn't happening. Like, you're there on my screen, but like you're not here with me.
It's the hand job version.
Yeah, it's the hand job. It's very two-dimensional, and there's no, we can't really bounce off each other, and we can't have those awkward silences that you'd want to have, and those genuinely high points where it's like, yeah, that was the, you know, we can meet each other's energy. It feels like I'm talking to a screen, you know? Yeah. And I'm sure you feel the same way. And so I can't imagine trying to connect with a character who's just here. You know?
I definitely hear you. And I think there's definitely something very powerful, obviously, about going to the cinemas, in terms of, you know, me going as a child and an adult now. And it's just, I saw Minari in the cinemas. And I think it was the first film I'd watched at the actual cinemas in like a year and a bit since, you know, when we had that little COVID break and then went back into lockdown. And it was just, and you're right, there's something so powerful about it and so romantic about experiencing it on a big screen. And there's no other distractions but that film. I think there's something very powerful about, actually, no, this is what I'm committing to, and this is I'm going to give myself to this film for 2 hours. And if it's good, and if the prose is strong and it's worthwhile, then I'm completely involved in it. And the empathy I had for, you know, the characters and similar people that have been through that experience after the film, I was like, I was just fully into it, rather than, you know, getting distracted on watching on a laptop and like, oh, I might just go on my phone for half a second. This is boring.
This is the shame with, I think, a lot of short films as well these days. It sort of breaks my heart a bit, you know, that I put a lot of effort into it. Recently, I just came out with this film, and it's doing a festival run at the moment, for those who don't know. And it does break my heart a little bit to look at the work of art that not just you've made, but like a group of people have made, and you know it's good, but then to see it be treated as like, you know, a candy bar.
Yeah.
You just throw it out into festivals these days. It's all just online, and it sucks. You know, you really hope that gets to a bigger screen and it gets to an audience. I remember my high school ran this competition. It was called V-Fest, and you knew that is the best. That's the best way to know if you fucked up or if you haven't. Like
Yeah.
to sit in the audience, to
Yeah.
have your hands sweat, and like to watch your film, and then have people either laugh or the response afterwards. It's so different, man.
Mm.
And like it feels really just uninspiring to make films, to go to all this effort to try and put an effect on, or to try and have an effect on someone, an audience, a greater thing. And then just to know like, oh, it's just going to be watched on a laptop. If they like it, they'll go, yeah, here's a little award, or, you know, here's a official selection. Without getting too into it, I am appreciative of the stuff we have for the film. But
yeah.
but I
No,
think it's just a different effect when you watch it in a screening room with audience.
I definitely feel you there, but I think, you know, as creators and artists, we can definitely fall in love with the romanticism of being completely lost in, you know, the film, and what, not having a phone to check, and the minute, you know, a conversation is drawn out for a little bit too long, and then you lose a vital piece. And, you know, obviously we spend a lot of time on these films, but I think in the end, like at the end of the day, we do need money to make these films. And right now, no one's going to the cinemas.
Yeah.
No one's doing this. No one's doing that. I think, and I'm right there along with you in terms of, I'm hoping the nostalgia of going to the cinema will bring back the popularity of going to the cinema.
100%.
But the unfortunate thing is, people have a cinema. A lot of people have, you know, 50-inch screens, 60-inch screens, you know,
at home,
fucking 3 steps from their bedroom.
Yeah. What's the point, you know?
What's the point
of paying the $27 plus the $10 for popcorn? Like, why do it? It's just too expensive. It doesn't make sense. But it's just not that, is it? It's the experience. Like I said, it's comparing it to a football game. Like you want to be a part of it, and you are a part of it when you're in that screening room. I think it's that choice of like, oh, I can just pause this, go to the bathroom, and then come back.
Yeah.
You know, that, or, you know, go to get another choc top or whatever. And I think that's what's sort of ruining the experience. But yeah, you're right. I mean, we need to make money somehow.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, in regards to that, I think the world's moving very, very, very quickly. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with, you know, the decentralized finance or blockchain or anything like that, are you?
No, but I know.
Okay, fair enough. But I'll give a little rundown and sort of how it's impacting a lot of the art today. One of my friends, close friends, who's a graphic designer, has just released a range of about to release a range of NFTs. Do you know what an NFT is?
No, I don't.
So basically a non-fungible token. So it's an asset that's not immediately liquidable. You have to sell it before making any money from it. But it's stored on this thing called the blockchain. And the blockchain is basically like a bunch of code and certain blocks that basically gives you complete transparency within transactions. And whenever you buy something on that blockchain, you have a bunch of code telling you exactly where it's come from, who's bought it previously, how much it was worth when you bought it for, and how much it's worth now. So obviously with that transparency, the one thing that's guaranteed with that is scarcity, right? And what a lot of digital artists are now, you know, I'm not sure if you've seen, but a lot of digital art, like literally JPEGs, are being sold for $24 million.
Actually, you know what? I did see something on Channel 7 the other day where they sold a XY for, and it's not a real XY, it was a 3D render of a car. And they sold it for I think it was $1 million. They sold it for something. The amount you'd actually pay for the car for this 3D render that you could probably do yourself if you put your mind to it.
100%. I mean, there's ones. I'll send some ones after we've stop recording to you,
Yeah,
just so you
please
can
do.
get a real feel for it. But what it's basically done in terms of, you know, connecting the artist to the consumer is really interesting, because no longer is there like a middleman between the artist and the consumer. The artist makes the digital art, and the consumer goes, okay, I like it, I believe in this artist, I think that it will appreciate over time, and the artist will appreciate over time, and it'll become more valuable as a result, and then I can resell it on. And because of its complete transparency, I can make a lot of money off that. And it's like, you know, I have that bit of code to tell people that, hey, I bought this. This is one of 3,000. There's only this much things that the artist has released. And with that, in my point I'm getting to is, I'm really interested in how it's going to change the film industry. Right?
Yeah.
Because obviously right now it's, you know, it's with mainly digital art. It's starting to move to music in a platform called Audius, which is actually just announced that they're starting to do podcasts as well. But basically Audius is committed to giving the artists 100% of the profits of the people that, you know, buy the artist's clicks. And they do that through using their own cryptocurrency.
Right.
And they're basically competing with Spotify, because I don't know if you know, but if you want to release a song on Spotify, you have to be with a label or a distributor. You can't just be like, you know.
Oh, right.
And so when the consumer listens to the artist's song, most of their dollars that they get, like 80 or 90% of their dollars they're giving to, is straight to the middleman, which is Spotify and the distributor and the label. And then the artist gets the measly like 5 or 10%. But the most interesting thing, and it's going to, and mark my words, it is definitely going to go to, you know, film, is, let's say if you were, and I truly believe this, in the next, you know, Christopher Nolan or big Australian director, right? And you release, instead of sending your films out to film festivals, you release, you know, Emphysapien, and you only have, you know, maybe 500 copies, and you release it on the NFT market, right? And it's just digital film, and people will be like, okay, let's do some research on Kyle. They look at your digital profiles. These are some previous films you've done. These are the accolades, da, 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 da. Okay, I'm going to buy it for, you know, 2 Ethereum, which is, you know, $3,000. And then after you do more feature films and more feature films and more feature films, and you go up as an artist, that original film becomes more valuable. Like, imagine if you had Stanley Kubrick's first short film and you were one of 200 people that had it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I think, shit, that would be pretty cool. But do you think that creates some sort of, like, do you think the exposure is the same for filmmakers? That makes sense, you know, like if
as in
I understand it for graphic designers or, you know, musicians. I can see why they'd want. I can see why they want that, but for filmmakers, do you think that would be something that people would want?
I think you could definitely. I think people are always looking for a way to make money, and I think art is basically the only form of investments that we have that actually appreciates over time. Everything else depreciates. And I think people are always going to want to make money, and people love stories. And like, I think in the future will be some sort of platform where you can go on, people can go and watch your short film and be like, fuck, this guy's making some hot shit. Okay, I want to buy. How many has he got left? He's got 3 left. Fuck, I want to buy it. I'll pay 4 Ethereum for it. And then you've got the budget for your next short film.
That is so interesting. Yeah, okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
How do we, let's do that. How do we
do that? Oh yeah, no, you and Max, you're the fucking first ones to do that. But yeah, no, it's apparently the technology is not completely there yet for film, but it's going to be there, and it's going to be there very quickly. And I think if we can launch on that when it is available, or, you know, maybe you may form a little group or company to exploit that, we can do really well. But mate, lastly, my last question that I'll ask you
Mm.
What's the meaning of life for you?
Oh, fuck. Meaning of life for me, to be present, I think, is as much as possible. Just to be me, tell stories, build really amazing relationships, and with absolute legends like yourself. No muss, no fuss. Yeah, that's just it for me.
Perfect, mate. Wholesome, humble, and fucking an absolute legend. Thank you so much for coming on here. Really
Mate, thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having me. Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I've had a really great time talking to you. All right. Thanks everyone for listening. I'll link all of Kyle's work down below. He's just made an incredible short film with our good friend Max Cattana, who just fucking rips it up, called Tommy's Shoes. It's going on its festival run at the moment. We've already got some wins. Is that correct?
Yeah. We just the other day we got a few wins in Italy and France, and then I think there's one more. I haven't had a look, but yeah.
Fuck yeah. So congrats on that.
Thank you, mate.
So we'll get on that. And mate, can't wait to make some more films with you.
Oh, I'm so keen to get on to the next thing, mate. It's going to be so good.
Wicked. All right.
All right.
Thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you next time.